chair, we'll take a roll call. Blythe Robinson,
Here.
Jeff Kent, sorry, John Kent, Chris Baker, Aaron Hunt,
Present, sort of.
Aaron Kinney,
Present.
and then Justin Yanosik is absent, but he did send in his range. So.
Got it. Sorry.
What was that, in case it was causing any?
I didn't have this computer on Zoom on mute, which was part of the reason for the feedback.
Okay, all right. So, first item of business is public comment. I'm not sure that we have anybody on the line other than Aaron, but I'll open it up to public comment. We do have an audience here tonight. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll move to the first agenda item. Please consider the ranking of designer proposals and selection of shortlisted firms for the interviews for the fire replacement rehabilitation station project. So, Blythe, I don't know if you want to give us a little background and talk us through the
Sure.
kind of the pre-bid process. Sounded like we had a pretty good turnout.
We did. I think there were about 15 people that attended the site visit. I wasn't actually able to, but I think there were, say, about 15. Good questions. That resulted in sending out 3 different addendums, the contract, and then answers to questions that came up, and then a application about how to turn in the printed copy of the hard copy of the actual proposals. We received 7 proposals on the deadline of August 13th, and sent those all out to each member of the committee. Everybody had the rating sheets that Vertex provided, and each individually ranked the 7 firms on a 1 to 3 scale for the different categories, turned all into our office. We piled the spreadsheet that I turned in to every tonight, which showed aggregate scores on the first page, and then everybody's individual scores on the pages that follow. So the task before us tonight is to review this and discuss it and determine a short list of firms that will be invited to interviews, which the committee had previously scheduled for September 9th, which is a Thursday night, and September 13th.
Which is a Tuesday, right?
Monday.
Monday. Okay, so I know the first sheet that came out earlier today, if anybody printed out a copy and brought it with them, not all the cells were adding up, but I'm assuming the one that we have here
It is.
has been corrected.
Yes.
So, Aaron, depending on which one you're looking at there, the scores might be a little different at the bottom. So one thing I think to discuss a little bit before we get into the total ratings, and where kind of the 7 respondents fell. So one of the rating categories was references. I know I did not contact any references on this list. I don't know if anyone else here did. Chief, I don't know if you contacted any references, or Aaron. It's fine if you didn't. So my thinking was that we would contact the references basically once we shortlisted. I took the approach of, I think there were like a number of references listed in the chart, and if you had 7 or more, you got 3 points. If it was, I think, 4 to 6, you got 2. And so I basically just counted up their references and gave them a score. So Justin actually did not fill out. I think he was a little unsure of what to do, so he had put zeros
Right.
for all the references. So I think the printout here is based on all his having zeros, correct?
That's correct.
So I went in and just kind of in Excel played around a little bit, and if I just gave him kind of the average reference score of all the other committee members, it really didn't change the numbers all that much. I think it was still, Tecton was the top overall rated respondent, followed by HKT, Schwartz Silver, Doran Whittier, and then Context, T-Gas, and Secocia, in that order. And I think that's the same order as the scores that you have here.
Kevin, if I could jump in, sorry.
Sure.
I actually can't see his scores. I don't know if that's because of me or because it's not being shared or.
I can attempt to share my screen.
Kevin, the only comment I would have to the references is that if it's, and I agree with the approach, if you're gonna do quantity, that's fine. But then the scores from
Thank you.
reviewer to reviewer should be the same. They're either there or they're not.
Sure.
And when you go through them right now, there's some up and down. So someone has a 2 for one firm, someone has a 3. You know, so there's, quantity is either met or it isn't. And if we're getting down on the front cover to hundredths of points.
Yeah, it makes a
You know,
difference.
it could. So that's the only thought.
So
As an
where did we
example,
have-
you have context, you have 2. And then, let's see, I think I saw someone else in there. 2 throughout. Maybe a bad example.
Yeah, but I think that actually the next one, Doran Whittier, might have a difference. So I had 3.
Yeah, and then Chris has him
Chris
at
had
2.
2.
And someone else had him at 3.
3.
3.
3. 3. So
Yeah.
I guess,
So maybe,
should we change Chris's to 3?
Well, but I mean, if you,
But,
what does it make? Why do we have to give Chris's references any value? Christian's reference any value? Because
yeah, we,
so,
the math is still the same. Everybody got zeros. It's not like he graded 1 and.
It actually changes the final number.
well, I think
Yeah,
it's
so-
gonna bump up Chris's rating of Doran Whittier slightly.
So Blythe and I had this conversation a little bit earlier today. The concern is when you go with just a complete score, somebody who might have graded somebody really, let's say someone gave everybody zeros, okay? Or gave one particular firm 0. That person is gonna drag the number for that firm down. So clearly, you would have had him in, say, 7th place, as opposed to the score, which might not, if everyone else has them as a 1, the reality is sometimes the math doesn't give you the reality that one person had them as an outlier and everyone else had them as first place. So one of the thoughts was, scores are great to get an idea of where your ranking is. Okay, but what we've done a number of times on projects is said, okay, chief, you've got your scores, now give me your 1 through 7. And everybody gives their 1 through 7, and then we see if there's consensus with so the scores are used to justify your ranking, and then from there, and then you kind of normalize it like a golf score. And at the end of the day, whether your first is at 21 points or your first is at 24, you've kind of said, okay, we all agree that, firm A was the first ranked firm, and you kind of take away those, those point totals of, well, was there, were the references 3 or 2, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I my crude, I had something
You
a
did
little
that
more
already?
official.
Yeah.
I did it earlier today. Basically, I had highlighted, I said, okay, based on this ranking, now, yeah, maybe a point here or there, maybe Doran Whittier.
Well, then if someone doesn't score their references, okay, someone didn't bother, and we're not gonna get them to fill that in now, or we're either gonna fill it in ourselves or not, but that really shouldn't affect, if someone said, no, I just chose not to do it, it shouldn't really impact their ranking all that much. I mean, it may, it may, depending, but I think,
Yeah, so what I did was, these X's, I know you probably, I don't know if you can see this, Aaron, but basically, underneath, I put an X, I put the top 3 of So,
Each person.
Of each person. I didn't go 1 through 7.
Yeah, and there were some ties, though, with a few. with a
Yeah,
few
Jeff-
people.
Jeff
Like-
had two, so
Like, this person to my right had 111,
But if I
Well-
check
which is
that, I
okay.
Right.
But I
So-
didn't give everyone a
but-
perfect
but tho-
day.
but
No,
those
that's
are-
true.
But those are her top 3, is how I counted it, was that they all had the same score, but those are her top 3 ranked.
Right, so you could do it that way too, and take that
The only
way,
person
Blythe
that
doesn't
had-
have to
had
pick, you don't
4
have to pick one
was
right now.
John. You had 2 people
Yeah,
with the
no,
same
you don't,
scores. so-
you don't. That's what the interview's for. The whole point of this is to get to a consensus of who should we call in,
Yeah.
you know, so it doesn't have to
Second-
be,
Agreed.
Sticking to that point, I mean, last time we interviewed 4, right? So again, I mean, I assume we're going down that same road. We're gonna do 4 interviews.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously no less than 3.
So, I mean, if you follow the, I mean, I don't wanna be putting words in people's mouths here, but say we went 4, and it's pretty obvious who the top 4 are. And there's a whole point really between 4 and 5, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
we're
I-
arguing about tenths of a point that don't really matter.
Yeah, so that's what I was looking at, Aaron, so the top 4 are Tecton, Schwartz Silver, HKT, and Doran Whittier. And you're right, the difference, the next closest was Context, but they were about, less than a point, but 0.7 lower. I don't know if normalizing any of these references is gonna change that.
I mean, I can quickly take the numbers out and see if it changes.
Yeah, if you
it.
put everyone for references as 0 and see who the top 4 are.
how did Kevin, your chicken scratch there of?
So if we did those 4, because that's how I looked at it,
Yeah.
I didn't
Was
know,
it,
I
was
didn't
it
know
the
that.
same 4?
It's not, but everyone has at least 2 or 3 of those 4.
Right.
So that's kind of how we narrowed down the OPMs too, was that everybody had at least 2 to 3 of those OPMs in those 4. So if we look at it with those 4, Aaron actually gets all 3 of his top.
Winner.
I have 2. Chris has all 3. Justin has 2. Blythe has 2. Chief Kinney has 2. And John has 3. So, of the 7 people, 3 of them are getting all 3 of their top ranked respondents, and the rest are all getting at least 2 of their top 3. I guess I don't think it's really, I personally wouldn't want to interview more than 4 firms. And so I guess if we said that the top 4 firms based on these scores are Tecton, Schwartz Silver, HKT, and Doran Whittier, does anyone have a strong opinion about Context, Sakosha, or, I don't want to say TGAS, what does it stand for?
Galante.
Galante.
Galante Architectural Studio.
Architectural Studio. Does anyone have a strong opinion about any of those 3 where they would want?
I'm sorry, I'm typing. What was the 3?
The 3 that would not be in the top respondents would be Context, Sakosha, and the Galante Architectural.
Yeah, I had Context higher. I did not have the other 2.
Yeah, you and I both had Context higher.
Okay.
But again, I'll defer kind of to the group. There's 2 people that had them higher, but there's 7 people on the committee, so I think we gotta come to something, in agreement that everybody.
Kevin, I would say you could ask the question you just asked the other way as well. Of the 4 that are sort of being talked about, is there one that somebody reacted negatively to?
Yeah, I mean, I can say from my scores, they were all pretty even. I only had 1 that was much lower than the others. And you say much, it's 4 points.
Here are the scores without the references in. I just can see them on the screen. So Context at 18.04,
It's the same.
D&W 18.17, HKT 18.46, Secocchio 17.34, Schwartz Silver 18.71, Tecton 18.75, to Galante 17.36. So it actually doesn't change the outcome.
Same
It's just the context is closer to D and W than they were.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I
Oh, go ahead. What do you-
I was gonna say, I mean, I liked Context's proposal, but it, you know, I don't know enough about them that I would.
So do you want to hear our experience?
Sure.
With, of all the firms, they're the ones we've worked with the most, 7 projects. An 8th one just coming online. They probably do the most public safety work. If there's a firm here that does mostly public safety, they're one of them. You know, I would say, that we've worked with. I can't speak about Galante. A lot of Tecton's work is public safety as well. So we've done 7 with Context. We've done 3 with Doran Whittier, including currently doing Dedham Public Safety, which is close to a $60 million project. 4 with HKT, all public safety, actually all, 1 public safety, 3 fire. Never worked with Secosio. Schwartz Silver, are the firm we acquired. Compass did Walpole and Newton with them, good reviews, and we're doing the Medford Public Library with them right now, a very successful project. Tecton, we just finished Natick, which was one of the projects that they highlighted, and Charlton, which was unfortunately a public safety project that was public safety first, failed at vote, became a fire station, failed at vote. So, through no fault of Tecton, just disconnect between citizenry and the project. And Galante, have never worked with them. So, you know, those 5, I know can build your fire station, for sure. But again, at the end of the day, it's how you guys feel about, I mean, so I don't have a visceral reaction to any of it. I'm like,
Yeah.
great, you've great choices here. That's the really good news. It's 7 good firms respond, which is great.
Yeah, I think that's where I would start, is that honestly, when reading through all the proposals, and anybody else, I don't wanna dominate the conversation here. Reading through all the proposals, I thought they were all pretty qualified. I was pretty happy with the response that we got. I think, you know, I appreciate the feedback on context, and obviously by my ratings, I agree that I thought but I think you gotta draw the line in the sand.
Oh, sure.
Somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
I agree. I think Matt had a comment. I just wanted to see what that was, if he could provide any insight to us, because he's one that's going to be taking over this building once it's built.
Reach out to some of the public construction firms and some professionals that I'm aware of who feel they talk about these firms with them, asking, and 2 of them came up very positive, easy to work with, great plans, very few change orders, is complete, and the 2 firms were Context and yes. So I was told both of them had minimal change orders. They were able to get back and very responsive to the customers, to the general contractor. They had great plans, and just, it was easy to work with them. When it's easy to work with people, it goes a lot smoother. But I don't have a vote, but that's good to hear that from several different people, that those 2 names both came up as positives.
Sure.
One thing I noticed on Contexts, and that I didn't see on all the other ones, is they were the only ones that had claims against them in the last 5 years. That didn't really kind of fall into many of the categories other than quality, and just because they had claims doesn't mean it was necessarily their fault. It could just be an unfortunate series of events, and maybe they're the only ones that are being fully honest on paperwork. But it was just something that kind of stood out to me.
They were also the only ones, I think, that had, looked like they'd reviewed the contract and had some
Yeah.
thoughts about it.
A couple others specifically said they took no exception, but I don't know if everybody said that.
Right, no, not so, context was the first one I read, so I just assumed I was gonna see contract
Right.
comments in every single
Did
one.
the same thing.
Okay, I mean, this is good information. I guess I'll open it up to the rest of the committee. I just, you know, we did the scoring, and I agree, I'm sure Context is a great firm. It's just, I'm not sure how we would, we obviously, I don't think we're gonna interview more than 4 firms. I guess, let's start there. Does anyone wanna interview more than 4 firms?
I don't necessarily want to, but, I mean, if it's in our best interest to, based off of some feedback we have, plus the familiarity, to bring context into the fold, I think that holds a lot of merit. It may be something we didn't necessarily include in the scoring, but I think it has merit, you know, that we should at least entertain a discussion, especially with it being so close, percentage point wise, to the number 4 finisher.
Maybe we should, building on that, maybe we should do as John suggests and each individually write down our, say, 1 through 5 and see where those line up. And maybe that will help shake it out.
I know that these discussions actually help sway, like, I had a lot of numbers that really, but, you know, hearing feedback, hearing, you know, this discussion actually, you know, I might change.
The other piece too, that you won't know until you interview is the personalities of the folks that are gonna help sell this. You know, and, you know, we've been told in interviews, hey, you went into the interviews here and you finished here. You know, work product, you know, paper versus people that come and sit in front of you. And it's a lot about, you know, when you get them in front of you. It is your time though. Like, you know what I mean? And I totally, you know, drawing a line at a certain number is, you know, I get it. But Chief, you got some really good points there, so.
I mean, we could plan on 4 interviews, and there's nothing to say we couldn't decide. We'd still like to see 1 more and schedule it. It will take more time, but we can still decide we're gonna call somebody back, like you do in an HR situation.
Yeah, I guess my opinion is that, I mean, 5 seems like a lot of interviews. That I'm not opposed to doing it, but yeah, we'd have to probably add. I don't think we can squeeze it into 2 days. So I think we'd
What do
to-
you have for time blocks right now? What was the thought on the setup of the?
I guess we were going to discuss that tonight, but my thought was to set it up the same as the OPMs, that we got 2 and 2.
45 minutes-ish? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, 45 minutes is a little short, I think, for the interview. I mean, you're probably given more like an hour. So if we're starting at 6 o'clock, you're talking 7 o'clock, a break, and then you're probably going to about 9 o'clock.
6 and 7:15 kind of thing if you were doing 2? Yeah.
So, I mean, personally, if we didn't agree with these 4, if people have a strong opinion of context, then I would say, is there one of the 4 that we wanna maybe swap out? That would be I don't know, I guess I don't have a strong reason for it, but just 5 seems like a lot to interview and
Yeah.
process and vote on.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if the scoring again individually 1 through 5 tonight, from what we've heard, helps shake that out.
I think that would be good, because like Chief said, that, you know, you hear someone else's opinion on something that you had a great experience in, that's where you worked with them a lot. My opinion was based on, you know, reading what I saw there, and it was probably swayed by seeing the claims like I brought up. But to hear that you had a good experience makes me think that it may be, the claims might be for some other reason, or, you know, that they're actually better than I think. So,
You know, it's a great, you know, great points. At the end of the day, like I said, I don't want to take anything away from any of the,
Right.
like, you know, you guys have your impression, and that's great. I don't wanna change it. Adding to it is fine, you know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
mean,
But,
it was
I-
more
what I,
condition,
so, you know, to me, this is a question of 4 or 5. I know 5 could be a little bit more. I would hesitate to, just because, hey, John's worked with them. And I know you hire us because you want some of that knowledge we bring, but I don't want you to put somebody out because of that. You know, that kinda takes away from your, you know, your review of the information.
Sure.
But do you wanna run through, and I've got one going, we can just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if that works for people?
Yeah.
And just see if that shakes one through a little bit, if you've got a tie and now you have to, kind of break it out. 1 second. So let's start. Rose. All right, so. I'm sorry, I'm still learning all of your names, so I'm gonna start with Kevin, because I know who Kevin is.
I didn't bring the, I
Give-
forgot to bring the little,
Give the little nameplates. In order, Kevin, from 1 through 5, 1 being your highest ranked, 5 being your lowest of the 5.
Sure. So 1, I have as context.
Yeah?
2, yes, 2 and 3 I have virtually tied, in my opinion, HKT and Schwartz Silver.
Who would be 2?
So I would say HKT is 2,
Okay,
and then Schwartz Silver is 3.
okay,
Tecton is 4.
yeah,
And Dora and Whittier is 5.
okay. And I'll go Blythe.
context,
Yeah,
HKT,
yeah,
Tecton,
yeah,
Schwartz Silver,
yeah,
D&W.
okay. John, right?
Yep.
Okay,
I have D&W, Galante,
hold on 1 second. D&W, Galante, yeah,
HKT,
yeah,
Tecton,
yeah,
and Context.
sorry. Tecton, you had 4, yeah, is that what you said, yeah?
Yes, and then.
And context 5, okay.
That's right.
I take Aaron on the screen.
D&W is 1, Schwartz Silver's 2, Tecton's 3, HKT's 4, and Context was 5.
Okay. Chris?
Schwartz Silver was 1, HKT, Tecton, D&W, and Context.
Okay, was there anybody else? Chief, sorry, Chief.
Yeah, I have, Tecton is 1, HKT is 2.
Yeah.
Dorian Ritter is 3, Context is for Schwartz and Silver.
I'm sorry, Chief, you know what? Could you start from the top again? I'm
Yes.
sorry, I mistyped.
Tecton is 1,
Yeah,
HKT is 2,
yeah,
Dorian Whittier is 3,
yeah,
Context 4,
yeah.
Schwartz and Silver 5.
So 5. Okay. So I'm just gonna read them back to you guys, just to make sure I have it right. So Kevin, you had context as 1, HKT is 2, Schwartz Silver is 3, Tecton is 4, Dorn Whittier is 5. Right? Okay. Aaron, you had D&W as 1, Schwartz Silver is 2, Tecton is 3, HKT is 4, context is 5.
Correct.
Thanks. John, you had Dorn Whittier as 1, T-Gas is 2, HKT is 3, Tecton is 4, context is 5.
Yes.
Great. Chris, you had Schwartz Silver as 1, HKT is 2, Tecton is 3, Dorn Whittier is 4, context is 5. Okay, Blythe, you had context as 1, HKT 2, Tecton 3, Schwartz Silver 4, Dorn Whittier 5. And Chief, you had Tecton 1, HKT 2, Dorn Whittier 3, Context 4, Schwartz Silver 5. Okay.
And we really can't count Justin because he's not here to do it. We can't, we only have what he had given us.
Yeah, I mean,
Beforehand.
we can what we end up with, we can compare it.
So the only issue here is because John T-Gas into the mix, you know, they average out at a 2, but they're not because they only got 1 score. So position-wise,
So, I'm sorry, how's your algorithm?
I'm just doing the average finishing position. The problem is I'm doing an average of, there's nothing else in the T-gas column, so it shows them as 2, which really isn't the case.
Could you put them down as 6 for everybody else, maybe?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Okay, so where this bears out is HKT comes in as first, with an average ranking of 2.5. Schwartz Silver and Tecton both come in at second place with an average position of 3. And actually, hang on a second. I guess Sakosha, no, but there were no scores for Sakosha. So what I'm going to ask, John, is that fair to say then that Schwartz Silver would be 6 for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Because that tweaks it a bit. So take back what I just said, because again, we're doing the average, so.
Yep.
So back up again, HKT 2.5, average finishing position. Tecton is next with an average of 3. Dorn Whittier is third with an average of 3.17. And Schwartz Silver and Context are tied with an average of 3.5. So,
It's time to thumb wrestle.
clear as mud, guys, clear as mud.
Well, I guess what is everybody's opinion about interviewing 5? Who's in favor of interviewing 5? 1, 2, and who's against it?
I'd rather go back later if we decide we need to talk to somebody else then.
The only problem, if you went, so here's the thing, if you went through 4 and then wanted to do a 5th, you would have to ask them, you couldn't change the interview at all. You'd have to do the same thing. If you know what I mean, so that they're operating from a same.
What do you mean, like ask the same question?
Yeah, so what you couldn't do is, well, we didn't. From a fairness standpoint, you know what I mean? So if you saw the 4, why would you not bring in the 5th person earlier? Because if you're gonna go back to you can't go back to somebody unless you go back to everybody. So you would have to keep that 5th interview as close to the same as the first 4 interviews. That's all. You would just have to, so you know, it's an apple and an apple. You're looking at the same thing.
I guess, I mean, I'm willing to do 5, I just rather try to do them still in the 2 nights or late afternoon to evening, and just power through 3 of them and then 2 of them.
Start at 5:30.
If we were gonna do that, I would say do 3 the first day and 2 the second day.
Yeah. Feel a bit fresher for the conversation at the end.
Kevin's not happy.
Well, you know, I mean, look, it's basically, it's coming down to that the fifth interviewee is context. And it's if people wanna have context interview or not. I kinda feel like I mean, I have context rated as my highest respondent, but I'm kind of willing to say, I think there's 4 other good firms here.
And I am
that we would
too.
interview.
I am
those
too.
4. You know, I understand like a lot of good things to say about context, but I've worked with a couple of these other firms too, and they're good too.
Good firms too.
You know?
For sure.
I'll be honest, I think, you know, I don't have technical expertise in terms of fully evaluating some of these proposals. Like, I look at them kind of for face value. I looked at the references, same thing, I just counted them. I didn't necessarily, you know, read into, or, you know, there were projects that I knew of, and I had actually spoken to chiefs in the process of before we even got to this. So I kind of have, you know, have an idea.
Sure.
But I tried not to let that sway me too much. You know, but I think
I mean, info's info.
absolutely. And I think that I know 5 is not ideal. I mean, I don't necessarily want to sit through 5 interviews either, but there's a part of me that just like, we want to try to get this right. We've been really transparent and objective from step 1, and, you know, if there's a chance that that 5th one might be the best one, I don't want to leave them out. You know, I want to go ahead and do it. And the way it hashes out is exactly the same as every which way we've done these numbers. These same 5 are popping up, and, you know, I think, you know, maybe we have to grind through it.
Yeah, I'll tag on to what Chief is saying and say, in the scheme of the amount of time that we're gonna volunteer to this, what's another hour?
Yeah. You're right. I mean, I don't wanna interview 5, but I'm not gonna fight anybody because we're basically letting my top ranked person out.
Well, the other thing I mean, it's kind of a little bit the opposite of Blythe's point, you know, of trying to squeeze them in. If you went to a 3rd night, no one wants to, then you're fresh for the battle royale when it's over, you know, to hash it out, as opposed to,
Well,
it's just a,
yeah, I guess the way I would look at it is like when we chose the OPMs, the 2nd night was a late night because we interviewed 2.
And you
then
stated.
and then we debated after.
Yep.
So here,
same thing.
basically gonna have two of the same nights. We're doing 3 interviews one night. The 2nd night is 2 interviews.
2 plus an hour,
and a
yeah.
debate.
Yep.
Yeah, so I do 3 the first night and 2 the second.
Yep.
Yeah, or we could do 2, 2, 1, and then hash it out.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm lucky to get this room the
Twice.
2 nights. I won't get
Might
it
not get it a 3rd night.
again right
Yeah.
after. It's really busy first of the week.
So Kevin, your thoughts on,
That way it's easier for people just to.
No, I think we want them in the room.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think being in a room's important.
Mhm.
just,
Well, it's low rung, so you just, you
Yeah.
know, rankings, I don't know if it matters, but one of the team members, he's a former colleague of mine from HKT. Their geotechnical team lead, just wanna make sure it's, haven't had any contact with him for like 10 years.
That's fine.
It's a long time ago, but
Okay.
wanted to make sure everyone knew.
Good.
Here's a form you might need to fill out.
Yeah, happy to do that.
so are you thinking hour? Or are you thinking 55 minutes or 50 minutes?
Yeah, I think we say 50 minutes, and they're probably
Do
gonna go
50.
an hour, you know.
Yeah, so if you did 5:30, 6:30, 7, if you could start early, that's up to you.
I could start at 5:30.
5:30, 6:30, 7:30, or 6, 7, 8.
Well, do we need to give ourselves a few minutes to prep?
Well, but we're gonna tell them 50-minute duration. So you have that 10.
No, but to start,
Oh, when we get here
for
that
us to
night.
get, you know, what questions are we gonna ask? Are we ready for that?
Yeah, I think if we, well, I guess first, could everybody be there for 5:30?
What were the dates again?
The 9th and the 13th.
13th.
The 13th, I am going to be traveling for work. I'll be home late that night.
I
those two
booked, yeah,
nights?
yep, and I'm sure the room is booked. Tuesday and Wednesday, I mean, I don't have access, do you know?
Does anyone else here have conflicts on the 9th or the 13th? Normally I would say, all right, one member, probably not the end of the world, but it's gonna be the night of voting.
Do it feasible, but not even, non-committal.
This room is booked out the 7th, 8th, obviously the 9th. Then the following is 13th, 14th, 15th. So the only available will be the 16th.
Which is Yom Kippur, if that means if that is a concern for anybody. Just looking, at least that's what Google tells me.
But if we think that through, right, I mean, we could watch the tape of the 9th and then be prepared to have a conversation on the 13th, right?
Chris can't be there for the 13th.
Oh, it's the 13th.
Yeah. I was actually gonna say, do we go back and say, do 2 interviews on the 9th, 2 interviews on the 13th, and then the 5th interview on the 16th, and we vote that night, and then you're there on the 16th, and you watch tape on the 13th.
Yeah. I can make sure that you make time to do that.
Would the 16th work for everyone?
Yep.
Aaron?
Yep.
Chief?
Yes.
So 9th, 13th, and 16th. Okay.
Any issue with the fact that we already told them the first 2 dates?
No issue at all. That schedule you put in the RFQ is really just to give them a ballpark idea.
Okay.
And we're giving them ample time to,
Yeah.
to let them know. So what times of day would you be looking if we're only doing 2?
I think we would probably, last time did we start at 6?
We
or
started at
6:30?
6, so that, because we gave ourselves a half an hour to prep.
Yeah, so then we went
6:30
6:30 to
to
7:30, and then 7:45
Yes.
to.
Do you want to stick with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, so 6:30 and 7:45, and then 6:30 on the 16th. So those are the 5 interview slots.
6:30 to 7:45, and then,
Sorry, they're an hour,
or
so,
6:30 to 7:30.
and then a 15-minute break,
7:45 to
8:45.
8:45.
Okay. So,
We arrive at 6, at least on the first day.
Yeah, we started on the second night a little later because we didn't need to prep for questions again. We were ready. We could plan to start at 6:30 and just, we'll all get there a few minutes early anyway, just to let everybody get settled.
Yeah.
and then, so as far as happy to call them to schedule?
Yep.
Okay. Typically, I'll call the number 1 first and kind of go from there.
What is that?
No, I see. That's where I was going. So HKT is first, and then Tecton is second, Doran Whittier is third, I think Schwartz Silver is fourth, and Context is fifth. They have the same number, but
I would
I'm
just,
going
That's
to
fine.
because
go
of where
back
it
to the
ended up.
original score, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I would agree.
Yep. So I'll call them in that order. And then the only other thing we have to talk about before we get there is questions.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was gonna bring that up. I think if we wanna do it like we did, last time, is maybe send Judith questions, and then we can compile them, and maybe, I think last time, everybody sent in questions, and there were some that were similar, and we kind of pared them down. I think, did we have 10 questions last time?
I'll have to go back and check.
Roughly. So for an hour, it felt like 10 questions was a lot. But we'll see what the questions are and if we
And now that
can
we
group them together at all.
And now that we know too who these are, we will start the reference checks. Kind of have a standard, standard set of questions, or score ranking, kind of a 1 through 10, with, contract administration, design process, kind of some high levels, just to be able to give you some feedback when we get to that third night of what the references were, what we got back.
I guess we don't know if Justin can make the 16th.
I'll check with him.
Sorry for forcing a third.
No, it's
I
okay.
apologize.
All right.
Glad we still have Zoom available, so you can actually do that. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it will be on live on YouTube, and
That's probably where I'll have to watch it, because I'll be driving during that time.
you shouldn't be watching it while you're driving.
You can listen.
You can listen. Or wait till you get home.
Watch it 2 or 3 times.
So if our first interview is on the 9th, do we want to say questions in by next Friday, the 3rd?
Sure.
And then that gives us Tuesday and Wednesday to kind of compile them.
Mhm.
That work for everyone? So get it out of the way before Labor Day weekend.
And just other question about format. So folks are going to want to know, room has technical capabilities, yes. So the breakup of that, now that we're doing 3 nights, we have the hour. Is it 20-40? 20 minutes presentation, 40 minutes questions? How do you want to break that up?
Yeah, I would think that sounds about right, 20 and 40.
You know they're always gonna go a few minutes longer.
We're gonna go too long, and we want to make sure that we get through all our questions, so.
Yep. Who do you want them to? Any limit on sub-consultants? What's the, typically we always ask to see the principal who's gonna be in charge, the project manager, and the person who's gonna do CA. Because the reality is after design is over, that's who you're gonna deal with most of the time. Kudos to the firms that it's the same person who kind of handles it throughout. I don't know as sub-consultants yourselves, tell me if you think this project, do you think we need the civil? Do you think we need, are there any specific issues? You guys know more about the project than I do right now. Is it worth having, bring your civil engineer because we need to talk about the site? There's no reason to bring in the MEP engineer right now because we're a ways away unless, you guys really want to talk about types of HVAC systems, and those sorts of things. Use it as an example. Or do we just keep it purely to the architects themselves?
Well, let's say, one of them had a person who just specialized in the fire
I think there were two
equipment,
there.
fire.
Yeah, so they're
design.
essentially JVs, so they're not really, I've met one or both of them, they're both great. I mean, they are fire-specific designers, so I would say architect, that consultant I see more as part of the architect team directly, because those firms have said, hey, maybe we lack a little bit in this, and they've, had a relationship with those folks.
Right.
I don't view them as the same sub-consultant as I
Okay.
would the cost estimator or the MEP or the civil.
Given that it's fantasy football draft season, could we say, you bring these 3 people plus a flex position? Like, if you want to bring a specialist, go right ahead, or it's not required, kind of thing.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You just don't want someone walking in their whole sub-consultant team, it's not necessary, and then most of them
We're
won't,
just gonna
then
fill the
most of them
room.
won't speak. Yeah. You want people who are gonna come who are gonna contribute to this.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea of the civil engineer. I think that they could have some good input.
And I think here,
Phasing. and-
right, the site's weird, like, where is the building gonna go, where are the exits, where can they, or what can they do with that little culvert that's kind of
I would also not say it's like necessarily a deal, the flex term is kinda good, cause I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker if they don't come, because that's gonna kinda get fleshed out in the feasibility of something.
I would think that most of them would recognize that if you're saying we want to bring a sub-consultant, you know, they'd probably see the civil as well.
Bring the sub-consultant you think is most important to helping us understand the project and how you're gonna approach it.
Another great impact.
If you haven't thought about it and brought the right person, that will be telling.
But yeah, I would say at a minimum, the principal and the PM.
Why don't principal and PM, and no more than 4 people total.
No more than-
And that way, that
But
way,
I think Blythe's wording is good, that, you know, no more than 4 people, and have one of them be a sub-consultant if you think that they're critical to the project.
I think the CA position is an important one.
Yeah. If it's a
Principal,
different-
PM, CA, and then flex.
okay,
That's my vote.
that's great. Okay,
So questions by the 3rd, interviews on the 9th, 13th, and 16th. And we'll start at 6:30. And, yeah, I would, for the one on the, we'll do like we last time, the one on the 9th, try and show up maybe 15 minutes early so we can go over questions.
I'll post it for 6, and
6, yeah.
we'll get here. That gives us time to prep before they walk in the room, wanna plug in and be ready.
The other two, I don't think it was as critical to necessarily get there super early.
I will have run through it once, twice already. Assigned questions and all.
So, I guess we can bring it to a vote to, shortlist and interview the following 5 firms: HKT, Tecton, Doran Whittier, Schwartz Silver, and Context.
So,
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 It's unanimous.
Big step number 1, done.
Yep. Okay, next item, please consider approval of the minutes. These are the minutes from the July 21st meeting.
Mhm.
Guess I assume you've had a chance to review them? Yes. Anybody have any comments on the minutes?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to pass the minutes from the June 14th, 2021 meeting.
July 21st.
I'm sorry, July.
You have old minutes?
Yeah, old minutes. Looking
He's
at my
got
phone.
signing to do.
I've got a few to sign right here. The
Okay.
last one on the list, the July 21st, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Second. Can I get a second?
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Okay. That was our last agenda item,
Mm-hmm.
so I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.